Hello, I'm Notes. Let's get back to the music reviews. This year we've had a plethora of new music being provided by new bands. I was debating as to which album to cover for the first week in December. I've had a few requests for a couple different albums, but the winner for the 1st of December is Syd Arthur's new album, Sound Mirror. Now, Syd Arthur hit the scene pretty hard back in 2012 with their debut album, On and On. It was received with open arms from the prog community, as they've been making quite a splash with their sounds from their previous EPs from 2010 and 2011. They were marketed pretty hard with their record label, calling them devotees of sound that haven't been heard of since like the mid to late 70s. With these releases, they've earned themselves quite a following, to the point where Prog Magazine has even awarded them with this year's Breakout Artists of the Year. This is how I first heard about the band. There have been a few other Breakout Artists of the Year, few of which I have fallen deeply in love with, so I thought these guys must be pretty notable to be awarded that recognition for 2014. People have said that their sounds are unlike anything they've ever heard of before. They're new, they're innovative, they've captured today's mood, and also been able to blend it with the spirit of the past. Reading their bios online and hearing testimonials, they came with a pretty big recommendation. The band itself is comprised of Liam McGill on lead guitars and vocals, Joel McGill on bass and percussions, Raven Bush on mandolin and percussions, and Fred Rother on drums. The band formed back in 2005, mainly out of the southeast UK from London, Brighton, and Canterbury. And you can definitely hear kind of the Canterbury scenes within these guys. This year they released their sophomore album, the second album, Sound Mirror. It was probably due to this release that earned them that Breakout Artist of the Year award. I picked up their first album back in the summer and I've been really enjoying it, really digging their groove. All the songs are crazy solid and the band really lives up to all that hype that has come about from them. Although, I will say I do detect some familiarities from other bands. When people say that they're fresh and they're new and we haven't heard anything like this before, I disagree. Perhaps we haven't heard anything like this before as a whole package, but I have definitely heard these kinds of styles before. Structurally, they sound very similar to the R&L project or the music that's created by Eyal Amir. And again, terrible with names, I apologize deeply. And also, while researching for this episode, I revisited a lot of the R&L project and also found my new favorite song. I definitely smell a new episode where prog takes on Taylor Swift's music. This isn't the first time that a big prog band has definitely tackled that kind of music. I completely digress. Musically, they sound very similar to Motorcycle, at least in terms of their vocals and overall mood. And instrumentally, they sound very similar to Gazpacho, at least in the acoustic sounds that Gazpacho brings. And so with these three ingredients, they form the overall feel of Syd Arthur for me. The smooth jazz that's captured by the R&L project, with that delicious time signatures and key changes that both bands bring. With that minimalist, acoustic, organic sound that Gazpacho tends to lean towards, with that atmosphere and that tone that Motorcycle has just really well captured. So that was their overall feel with the first album. How does the second album, how does their sophomore album feel? I've been listening to it now for about a month and I have to say I'm not actually all that impressed with it. There's a lot more wandering around on this album in terms of landscapes that they're painting. And I keep losing track about where I am on the album and where the songs are going. You know, there's just an overall feel of incompleteness to this album. It's much more like a work in progress than an actual finalized album. And maybe this is the point. You know, maybe it's just kind of like that sound mirror. It's just an idea that's being brought up. Again, I keep thinking that this was their first album. That Sound Mirror was more of their first album, and On was much more of their mature follow-up. Now that's not to say that Sound Mirror isn't void of good songs, you know, it's far from it. The music though is very similar to that first album. So if you enjoyed their debut album, you'll definitely enjoy this one. They stay pretty close to form on it, and perhaps that's part of the problem. They do try a few new things. You know, I love those two songs near the end of the album, Chariots and Singularity. These two songs are really good at, branching out and trying new things, trying new sounds. You can tell that they're trying to get out of that comfort zone they've put themselves into for the past couple of years. They're trying, growing the sounds. That last bit in Singularity is definitely that build-up style that Motorcycle has just really grounded themselves into. But, other than that, the only other song that really sticks out for me is that single that they released, that Autograph. But even this has kind of like that mirror song of All and Everything. Again, both very jazzy grooves, that smooth vocals with that piano jazz bar playing around it. Again, it just doesn't really sound all that different from a lot of those songs that were captured from On and On. And this brings me to my biggest criticism of the album. Sound Mirror never really deviates from that center that it captured from the first album. Sound Mirror is a very apt name. It does mirror the first album. There's no real new identity found on this album. As a standalone album, not listening to that first album, it's still pretty good. It's still a really cool and groovy album. But as a follow-up, it does leave you wanting more. So let's hope that Syd Arthur grows from this experience. And they try to branch out and try a little bit new things. They're still mighty young, and they have a lot of time to mature and really grow those musical talents, because they definitely have the chops. They have the musical ability. They've got the musical talent. Now it's just time to nurture and grow and mature. Alright, that's it. Notes out.